The X factor behind Ergohuman's line of chairs has always been a comfortable backrest with flexible lumbar support. The XTREME's predecessor, the IOO, had that great backrest. It also had several issues that made it difficult to recommend. But the IOO is a survivor. It keeps improving and has become what Eurotech calls a pinnacle of evolution. So what are those issues it needed to solve? The first was the backrest angle on the IOO. This problem is the reason even our closest followers have probably never heard us talk about this chair. Thankfully, this was improved with the XTREME. As you can see with the IOO, the chair feels like it's in a permanent state of recline, never going fully upright. The XTREME not only sits you more upright, but it also gives you forward seat tilt. This angles the backrest even further forward for intense tasks. Some might find that the standard tilt mode is still too pitched back, but personally, I found that this puts me at a very comfortable position. I typically keep my chair with the recline unlocked and the tension turned up high so I can rest back at any position. Are you able to spot the differences between these two chairs? One is the XTREME and one is the X-Chair K2. When I brought the XTREME home to test for a while, even my wife asked, "Is that an X-Chair?" And she's only seen them in commercials. Well, let me warn you, they look similar from far away, but if you look closely, there are small differences that make a huge impact. One that is really hard to see is the shape of the backrest frame. When pressing the X-Chair, you can see the edge of the frame juts out. The XTREME, on the other hand, when pressing, there is much more of a slope at the edge of the frame. This means that as your back gets close to the frame, you're less likely to bump into a hard edge. The XTREME also has a drastically more comfortable seat, which we'll get to later. New to the XTREME is dual adjustment for the lumbar support. The way you adjust the lumbar height is by moving the entire backrest up and down until it fits the curve of your back. Then you can adjust the headrest accordingly. Next, there are dials to fine-tune the lumbar depth or strength. Because of how you melt into the backrest, the lumbar never becomes pokey or hard, but still remains supportive. If you're looking for a more direct lumbar with less give, I'd suggest the Ergohuman Leather or even the Leap. If you're realizing the all-mesh design of the XTREME might not be for you, BTOD refurbishes Steelcase Leap and EMEA chairs. Save over 50% off brand new and still get a 12-year warranty and free returns. I'm not someone who has to have a headrest on my chair, so the nice thing about the XTREME's headrest is that it's there when you want it and it stays out of the way when you don't. If you really want a headrest for upright tasking, you'll need to find one with a lower pivot point like seen here on the Fujin Pro. What it does have is both height and pivot adjustment to help you fit it into the curve of your neck. The mesh feels fine on my skin and doesn't catch my hair as I move around. I'd rank it as a B-tier headrest with all things considered. The list of chairs with mesh seats that I would choose to sit in is very short, and that list is mostly filled with very expensive chairs. The XTREME joins its brother, the Ergohuman Gen 2, as the second chair under $1,000 that I would put in A tier. The seat is the main culprit of the mesh chair problems. I cover this at length in my Don't Buy a Mesh Chair Before Watching This video. One challenge in designing a mesh seat is to keep it supportive, but also have enough flex so it doesn't feel like you're sitting on a wicker chair. The Ergohuman XTREME went with a large seat and kept the mesh very flexible. I sink relatively far down into the seat, but I still have enough room to stay away from the frame, so the XTREME passes this test. Frame issues are the next of the common problems. With some chairs, it's the bolsters on the side of the frame that are high and limit how you can sit in the chair. In others, you sink too far into the mesh and hit the side of the frame. As I foreshadowed earlier, this is the problem with the X chair. Neither of these are an issue for me with the XTREME. Before any chair purchase, take time to consider how your body shape would fit into the chair. The final deal breaker when it comes to typical mesh seat problems is resolving how the front edge of the seat transitions from mesh to frame. Herman Miller led the way when they remastered the Aeron, removing the pad under the mesh, and many chair companies have followed this path. The XTREME has a smooth waterfall front edge that minimizes pressure under your legs. This avoids cutting off circulation as many chairs do. One downside with the pad-free design is that you can end up getting some bunching up of the mesh. For the XTREME, this is more of an aesthetic problem because I never feel these folds under my legs. This seat would still only land as a B tier for me, as I prefer the padded comfort you get from the EMEA or Leap seat. The upgraded arm package from the IOO to the XTREME is the second of the massive improvements. The IOO had hard pads that moved around way too easily. The XTREMEs are quite the opposite. The XTREME arms have both a great adjustment package and super cush pads. All the ranges are nice, with only the width adjustment feeling a little bit lacking. I'm generally not a fan of any kind of ratchet adjustment, but since arm height isn't something you're likely to change often, using this style doesn't make a huge impact. The tall height of the arms paired with the pivot make these arms great for device use. Now moving on to the pads, these are some of the best padded arms I've ever used. The only rival chairs would be the Ergohuman with the same arm package, and the best arm pads out there, the Aeron. These pads are great for regular tasking and provide plenty of cushion for putting some weight on them. Moving on to adjustments, the XTREME has one handle to manage most of the functions. The seat height and depth can be adjusted to fit a large range of heights, perfect for me at 6'2". The same knob can be used to lock your recline into any position you'd like, or just keep it unlocked. The recline gives you a smooth transition from upright to reclined, keeping constant pressure on your back. One adjustment not included in this lever, but rather found on the opposite side, is the forward seat tilt. I personally don't use this at all, but if you really want to get your back straight up, it's there. You can feel the build quality in the arms, especially when using them to get up out of the chair. The frame, components, and mesh are all high quality and backed with a solid warranty. The warranty covers all components for the product's lifespan except for the mesh, which has a 5-year warranty. Even though it's high quality and much better than budget level chairs, I don't particularly love the look or feel of the XTREME's mesh. As mentioned in the seat section, it has great flex, but it lacks the softness of the premium mesh on the Aeron. Comparing the XTREME to the Aeron isn't really fair, since the Aeron is about twice the price, but I consider it a compliment that it's even close enough in quality to make it a worthwhile conversation. I wouldn't quite say that the XTREME has hit the pinnacle of evolution quite yet, but if you're looking for an all-mesh chair under $1,000, the XTREME would be a top recommendation. To get our buying guide for all the most popular office chairs, click the link in the video's description.